Hello again. I just wanted to drive home a point when it comes to the proper hermeneutics, which basically is the breakdown or the interpretation, especially of eschatology, which is a study of end-time events. I had a situation come up with one of my detractors who said a lot of things about the validity of taking things literally. You've heard many times I've explained they are the 7-year dispensational pre-trib rapture people are by and large what you call literal literists. They take things literally. And when it comes to chronological issues, they also run consistent with going through without looking at the big picture, is about the easiest way to explain it. So when it comes to, excuse me, when it comes to looking at things the way things should be looked at, for example, I told one of these rapture people, as you can see I'm being incredibly nice, if you look at one of the things that they do, again, is they run, the chronology is concurrent with going literally straight ahead. And they take things literally. An example would be, I came back and I told this rapture person, I said, look, you're going to find out about these things. And when you do, because look at the surroundings of our geopolitics right now in the world. It's not a rosy picture. So things are going sideways very quick, very quick. And please get stocked up, water, food, all that sort of thing, please. But I gave the example to him. I said, well, you're going to find out about what's going on. And then you're going to have to go to the city and buy oil for your lamp, because you're not in the position to be one of the 5 wise virgins. You're in the position and portray yourself as being one of the 5 unwise virgins of Matthew 25. And he shot back, oh, no. What you're doing, he's telling me, he says, what you're doing is you're being a literalist about it. Which is ironic, because it's not to be taken literally when you go to the city, when those 5 unwise virgins go to the city to buy oil. It's highly metaphoric. Highly metaphoric. Because it's talking about the spiritual oil. Okay? Because if it was physical, purely physical, going to the city to buy the oil, then the lamps would be physical. Then it would be a physical wedding here on earth. But this has spiritual overtones to it that are written all over Matthew chapter 25. He didn't get that, which is ironic. The biggest thing that I can advise people on is that, and especially the 7-year dispensational pre-trib rapture cultists, okay, now I'm not being so nice, is that they have the propensity, the proclivity, and just are infamous when it comes to mixing. What they do is they mix and match. I used to go to a gym, and in the kind of like a very private, kind of a small gym back in South Bend, Indiana called Lynch's Gym. And it was a great place to work out. But in the men's room, they had a bunch of cheap colognes right there on the windowsill. I think that's what you call it. But anyway, we would mix and match the colognes. And just as a wild case scenario example, whatever, but what the infamous practice of the 7-year dispensational pre-trib rapture cultists, what they do is they mix and match. For example, I give this example a lot now because it's very apropos, is that they'll take the beast that rises up out of the water in the front paragraph, the first paragraph of chapter 13 of Revelation, and they convolute that completely out of context because it says one of its heads, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns upon the horns. But they take it and they say, well, even though the scripture says one of his heads were wounded, they say, oh, well, that's the Antichrist. So what they're doing is they're mixing and matching. They're mixing a purely self-described, from a biblical standpoint, doctrinally speaking, a self-described metaphor, because it has to do with dynastical empires as such. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, and then we can talk for a long time on that as well. Before and after the cross, it's applicable. So it has in other words, it has dual chronological timelines for certain elements of dynasties. But anyway, what we're saying is they take that and they say, oh, well, even though that's, see, they'll never get to the point where they'll admit that it's a metaphor in principle as far as the interpretation of that prophecy goes. Because if they were to admit that, then they can't take out of it their idea of the literal, physical Antichrist. Do we see that? But they do it that way. That's how they do it. They make stuff up. Where it's like, well, the Antichrist is in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and it's all over the place in there. And, well, you know, even though 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 talks about the man of sin, son of perdition. Okay? So these are some of the cruxes of their faulty theological application. They can't get their story right, because you can't mix and match the metaphor with the physical application that they draw upon from it. If you're a remnant out there, stay remnant. Get this word out to other people, please. The time is now. Let's get this job done. Let's make a good showing. It could be very, very possible and very probable that in the very near future, weeks or months, things blow way out of proportion, no pun intended, and we lose comm. When comm goes down, either this is kind of like tying the loop to with the 5 wise virgins. Either you're going to have that oil in your lamp when it gets real dark out, and of course the 7-year pre-trib dispensational rapture cultists will say, "Oh no, that's only for the wedding feast." When it gets real dark out and we got no comm, you're going to be working alone. Okay? So you better know this information. I know a lot of you people out there do, especially you, Sister Pamela. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Sister Pamela. Fantastic job. You're in the saddle. You're making fantastic progress. I wish I could see it and just revel in the joy of knowing and seeing how you are spreading the word far and wide. I know you are. And there's a lot of unsung other people out there that I never get the chance to talk to or meet, but I know you're out there. I know you're out there. Just got a new domain, by the way. It's stayremnant.net. Stayremnant.net. We'll put it down here at the bottom of the screen. I love you guys. Stay in the fight. Keep your uniform on. Keep pushing the needle and making progress. I love you guys. We'll talk soon.